While we await the initial Credentials Committee report, I would like to take a moment of personal privilege to offer a few thoughts of mine in my capacity as your state chairman. Let me begin, if I can, by introducing my beautiful wife of over 12 years, Brittany. She's coming from this side. She'll be arriving in just a moment, I believe. Sometimes with 4 little ones at home, things move a little bit slower. Because joining us on stage will also be my 4 children. Aaron is 10 years old, Lauren is 8, Andrew is 4, and our little red-headed Ellie is almost 2. My wife is a saint, and I really love her very, very much. She doesn't walk very fast, though, sometimes. Just stand right up here. I bet you didn't know I had such a lovely family. Thank you for being here with me, sweetheart. You know what? They are the reason that I'm in this fight, just as the concern for your family is what compels many of you to be involved in our Republican cause. Just like you, each of you is worried about the kind of America you will leave to your children, to your grandchildren, and to future generations of Americans. You have also taken note, I hope, of this gavel, which is quite different than the one that was handed to me when I was elected by the State Central Committee just over 1 year ago. Well, let me tell you a little story about this gavel. During the Great Depression and the war years of the Franklin Roosevelt administration, the White House's annual repair budget had been sorely neglected. In fact, not long after Harry Truman was sworn into office as the 33rd President of the United States, the entire main section of the White House was found to be structurally unsound. According to the White House Museum, floors no longer merely creaked, they swayed. The President's bathtub was sinking into the floor. Engineers did a thorough examination and found wooden beams that had been weakened by cutting and drilling for plumbing and wiring over 100 years. And the addition of the steel roof and full 3rd floor in 1927 had added weight to the building that it could no longer handle. They declared that the whole house was in imminent danger of collapse. Plans were discussed to demolish and rebuild according to the same design. But in the end, Truman went to Congress and requested the funding to rebuild the White House, leaving the stout brick outer walls, much in the same way that President James Madison had done after the White House was burned during the sacking of Washington by the British Army during the War of 1812. And so the old exterior of the Executive Mansion was dismantled in 1950, and the White House was rebuilt from the inside out, along the same plans as the original, but using concrete and steel beams in the place of wooden joists that had been so severely weakened over the years. And that's where this gavel comes in. It is made from wood taken from those original pine beams and joists installed by James Madison after the War of 1812 and removed by Truman as part of the reconstruction of the White House in 1950. My friends and fellow Republicans, our nation is at a moment of crisis. We have a president and political opposition that seem intent on demolishing the whole structure of America and undermining the very foundations that have made America the land of opportunity. The beams and joists of our country have been weakened by the growing weight of unsustainable spending and entitlement programs, by oppressive regulations and an unchecked federal bureaucracy that has ignored the balance of power envisioned by our framers, and by an ambivalence and downright hostility to those time-tested values and virtues rooted in morality and faith that have been the bulwark of our republic and that have strengthened families and communities and Western civilization for generations. It is not an exaggeration to say that the very structure of our republic is in imminent danger of collapse. And that is why the stakes in this election are so very high. On the campaign trail in 2008, Barack Obama promised to cut the deficit in half by the end of his first term. As a senator, Obama declared that adding trillions of dollars to the national debt would be, quote, unpatriotic. But despite his promises, now that we have a president that has posted record trillion-dollar deficits each and every year of his administration, and we are now borrowing 42 cents out of every dollar the federal government spends. By the end of his first term, Obama will have added $6.5 trillion to our national debt. Not just more than any president in history. Obama will have added more to the outstanding debt of the United States than all previous 43 presidents combined. Each and every year of his administration, for 3 years running now, the United States Senate, that great deliberative and decision-making body, as it is controlled by the President's Democratic Party, has refused to even pass a federal budget. And bill after bill, passed by a Republican House, and most with significant bipartisan support, lie languishing in Harry Reid's inbox. Despite promises that that billion-dollar spending stimulus would bring unemployment below 6%, we have now gone over 38 straight months with unemployment above 8%, the longest sustained period of high unemployment since the Great Depression. And the real unemployment rate, that includes the long-term unemployed and those who can't find full-time work or have simply given up looking, is closer to 12 or even as high as 14.5%. The Obama administration has trampled on the exercise of religious liberty in unprecedented ways and has ignored the 10th Amendment and the sovereignty and authority of the states and local governments, not to mention the rights of the individual. And speaking of unprecedented, just 2 weeks ago, this former constitutional law professor has used the office of the presidency to bully and intimidate the United States Supreme Court with an audacity that we have not seen since FDR's court-packing schemes of the 1930s. Overcoming the challenges that we face in the upcoming campaign will not be easy. And the challenges of governing after we win the trust and confidence of the voters may be even harder as we work to reverse the tide of growing welfare and entitlement state. Edmund Burke once observed that to form a free government, that is, to temper together these opposite elements of liberty and restraints in one consistent work, requires much thought and deep reflection. Our Republican Party is not just the party of Lincoln, of Teddy Roosevelt, of Eisenhower, and of Reagan, but we are also the party of ideas. We are the party of prudent reforms and the party of principle. As Republicans, we stand for those enduring principles of limited government, of personal responsibility, and freedom and opportunity. And over the past year, we have made tremendous strides as a party organization here in Colorado. Within 1 month of my election, we cut overhead expenses at the party by 40%. And last year, we raised over $750,000, nearly double what we typically raise in recent off years, and even more than the last general election. And because we have demonstrated that we are good stewards of our contributors' dollars, and because we've worked hard at it, we continue to exceed our fundraising goals. We have worked closely with legislative leadership and our county party committees to recruit and support great candidates, to improve the transparency, communication, training, and outreach by state party, and to be a responsive source of support and help to our leaders at the county party level and volunteers that are the lifeblood of our party. Our Colorado Republican Party is better prepared than we have been in years to help elect conservative, common-sense leaders who will govern like they promised to on the campaign trail. Great Republican leaders like Speaker Frank McNulty and Senator Bill Cadman, who you'll hear from later today, who will make it easier for entrepreneurs to build and expand businesses that will create jobs. Republican leaders like Cory Gardner, who will work to help families keep more of their hard-earned money by reducing taxes. Republican leaders like Mike Coffman, who will support our men and women in uniform and fight to limit government regulations that unduly restrict freedom. Republican leaders like Scott Tipton, who are absolutely committed to helping us be good stewards of the environment and our public lands, while also helping us develop needed energy resources and insisting on the protection of private property rights. And new Republican leaders like Joe Coors and many, many others that are running for Congress or for the state legislature, all the way down to the office of county commissioner, who will help us as Republicans instill a culture of honesty, accountability, and fiscal discipline at all levels of government. And so this gavel serves as a tangible reminder of the challenge of our generation and of our shared commitment to rebuild the beams and the joists and to restore the greatness of our nation, weakened as it has become over the years, and particularly by the current occupant in that White House. We gather as Republicans here today in Denver not just to send a message, but to select delegates who will nominate a president. Thank you. And so I have to ask of each of you, are you willing to set aside the small differences and disagreements that we may have among the different membership of our Colorado Republican Coalition, and to have the courage and resolve to focus instead on those things that unite us under the banner of our nation's conservative party? Will you open the door to our party, welcoming the thousands of liberty-minded activists who have joined our ranks in recent years?